In this lesson, we will reflect our parent functions across the x or y axes. When we reflect something across the x-axis, in essence what we're doing is we're making our y a negative y. So replacing y with negative y, that will reflect it across the x-axis. So the x-axis is this one, so that would make sense if I took a point that's on a positive y and I reflected it to make it a negative y, it would reflect across the x-axis. Reflections across the y-axis, of course, is exactly opposite. I'm going to replace x with negative x, and that will reflect it across the y-axis. So let's take a look. The graph of f of x is right here. So it's this weird graph. I want to graph y equals negative f of x, which means I'm replacing y with negative y. So let's do that one first. We'll do that one in black. So if I'm replacing y with negative y, then my negative 2 positive 3 would be negative 2 negative 3. So I've replaced 3 with negative 3. My 0 2 would be 0 negative 2. My 1 4 would be 1 negative 4. And my 4 negative 1, I'd replace negative 1 with positive 1. So my reflection across the y-axis looks like that. Notice, across the x-axis. So across the x-axis, I've just used negative y for every y. So that's what happened is I took it across the x-axis. For the y-axis, I'm replacing x with negative x. So this point of negative 2, 3 would be 2 comma 3. So every time I got an x, I changed the sign. This point of 0 2, still 0 2 because negative 0 is 0. This point of 1 comma 4 is now negative 1 comma 4. And this point of 4 comma negative 1 is now negative 4 comma negative 1. So my new graph shifted now across the y-axis looks like that. One for you to try, very similar. The first is across the x-axis, and the second is across the y-axis. So try that question, then press play to check your work. For my first, I'm replacing y with negative y, so the point 1, 2 would be 1, negative 2. 2, 1 turns into 2, negative 1. 3, 5 into 3, negative 5. And 5, 0 stays the same. So notice this has now reflected that value across the x-axis, so it's symmetric with respect to the x-axis. For my second, I would replace x with negative x, so 1, 2 is now negative 1, 2. Remember, I'm shifting now across the y-axis. 2, 1 is now negative 2, 1. 3, 5 is now negative 3, 5. And 5, 0 is now negative 5, 0. So I've taken that entire function and I've just flip-flopped it over the y-axis.